Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Chapter 6. Ability can also bring benefits to you. Grateful. These robbers are really unlucky. As he spoke, Li Zi's eyes fell on Wanda beside him. They didn't expect to meet the Avengers in Westview Town. I didn't expect that Zijing Town was not peaceful. Let's go and have a look. Wanda noticed the sight, hesitated for a while before opening her mouth. Well, teach them a lesson. Li Zi nodded. He knew that Wanda had made this decision, but it was actually very difficult and entangled in his heart. Before that, the Sokovia incident probably still lingers in Wanda's heart. At that time, countless people abused Scarlet Witch, thinking that the Sokovia incident in Avengers Alliance 2 was largely due to the gift of Wanda. In fact, without Wanda, even more havoc would have been wrought. Just as people condemn the destruction caused by the Avengers in the war, they forget that without the Avengers, the Great War in New York would have razed America to the ground. Soon, the two walked into the alley around the corner. In the dark and damp alley, a few unkind young people were pulling the satchels of a mother and daughter. The mother and daughter curled up in the corner and held on to the satchel tightly. Judging from the messy clothes, it was obvious that this group of people didn't just come for the satchel. Witnessing this scene, Wanda's eyes flashed with anger, and her fists were secretly clenched. Hey, here are two more. One of them noticed the two people at the entrance of the alley and grinned obscenely. John, tonight is really a bumper harvest, and this trip to Westview Town was not in vain. I want to make up for all the 5 years that were vacant. The big and thick Will twisted his neck when he saw this, like a black bear staring at a new prey. Brothers, let's go quickly. Don't lower the level of law and order in Zijing Town. Li Zi didn't feel nervous in the face of the gangsters. On the contrary, he keenly captured the conversation between the two, and they were not locals. Not all the locals dare to be so arrogant, they simply don't take the local gangsters seriously. Boy, you don't seem to understand the current situation. There was a smile on Will's rugged face, and he whistled. Boom. Next second, at the entrance of the alley, a figure walked out behind Li Zi and Wanda, holding a baseball bat and blocking the way. It seemed that he was hiding in a corner to let the wind out. Well, things are a little different now. Li Zi glanced behind him, patted Wanda's shoulder lightly, and said in a low voice, Wanda, it's up to you. Quote. Even the cold-tempered Wanda was a little speechless, and couldn't help but give him a blank look. This guy is so weak that he dares to be so arrogant. Are you not afraid of being retaliated against in the future? At this time, Will's narrowed eyes greedily glanced at Wanda's curvy figure, and sneered, Boy, you really shouldn't have brought your girlfriend here. Sorry, what did you say? Feeling the sight, Wanda's expression suddenly became more gloomy, and the rhythm of her fingertips glowed with a faint reddish light. A few unlucky ones are going to die. Li Zi took a step back, ready to watch a magic show. Bitch, I said. Will didn't notice anything wrong at all, and he was still talking desperately. But the next second, I saw that Wanda's hands glowed bright red, and it intensified, illuminating the entire dark alley in an instant, reflecting the frightened faces of several gangsters. Fuck, it's mutant. Feeling the red light on Hui's face, Will and the others staggered back in horror. The mother and daughter who were originally huddled in the corner saw hope in their eyes, and helped each other up. Help us. Shut up. Will holds a gun and is about to hold the mother and daughter hostage. Because he knew that ordinary people would never be able to resist mutant, not to mention that the woman in front of him looked extremely powerful. You bastards deserve to die. Wanda's pupils glowed red, and she opened her arms. Rage's chest heaved violently. It seems that some people really shouldn't be saved, and some people are still stubborn when they come back, ashamed of those who died in the war. The words fell. Boom. Along with the release of anger in his heart, a mass of raging red light gushed out towards the few people in front like a tide. Wherever he went, the whole alley trembled. The red light swept across and knocked several people to the ground abruptly. The red light quickly spread throughout the body like a flame. Ah, get out of my head. Will fell to the ground with bulging veins on his forehead, holding his head in his hands and screaming heart-piercingly. However, the magic that contains Scarlet Witch's anger and pain, after eroding the brain, no one can resist it, and it can even make people die in nightmares. The mother and daughter who were hiding in the corner hurriedly avoided for fear of being heard by his crazy appearance. Wanda, you are so strong. Rear. Li Zi is also a top magician, so he can clearly feel the strength of the origin magic power. It's no wonder that Wanda, who has studied the Dark God book, was able to transcend reality and travel through the multi-universe in just a few months. Go to hell. Just as he was thinking about it, the person who was in charge of releasing the wind at the entrance of the alley came back to his senses, and directly pulled out the gun at his waist and aimed at Wanda in front of him. Just as he was about to pull the trigger, the fist in front of him had already fallen. Boom. What's wrong? Wanda heard the movement, turned her head and saw the last gangster passed out on the ground. He made a sneak attack, but I knocked him down with a punch. Li Zi explained with a smile, I used to learn kung fu when I was in wuxia. Everyone in China knows how. Wanda is puzzled. No, Li Zi didn't know how to explain it, and the stereotype problem couldn't be explained for a while. Then he walked towards the few people who were still lying on the ground moaning in pain, opened the cuffs, and found that they all had the marks of gangsters on their bodies. Secretly write down these imprints. He turned to look at Wanda. Wanda, leave it to the police. His purpose is to get Wanda out of the predicament, and it is better not to do murder. With Wanda's temperament, if she killed someone, she might be more affected by origin magic power, causing some irreparable situations. Wanda nodded. She just stunned a few people and retracted her magic. The mother and daughter who had been hiding in the corner ran out in a hurry, and the woman said gratefully, "Thank you, ma'am, if it weren't for you just now, the consequences would have been disastrous." Easy to do. Wanda was very thankful, and couldn't help but smile with a warm heart. Thank you, sister. The silent little girl behind the woman also poked her head out, thanking her in a childish voice. You're welcome. Hurry up and go home with mom, it's not safe outside at night. Wanda couldn't help reaching out and pinching the little girl, she couldn't put it down, her eyes were full of love for her pink face. See you later. After finishing speaking, the woman didn't dare to stay longer, she took her daughter and left in a hurry. Wanda stared at the backs of one big and one small, gradually disappearing at the end of the alley, and it took her a long time to look away. Wanda, look. Sometimes ability can also bring some benefits to people. Li Zi came over and said softly, he had a perception that Wanda's mood swings were not so intense. Although it has not been fully recovered, it has at least been eased. Wanda recalled the words of thanks to the mother and daughter just now, her eyes flashed with warmth, and said slowly, actually, few people would say thank you to me, except the Avengers and Vision, especially after the Sokovia Agreement. Then she stopped talking and changed the subject, let's go back first, the police will deal with them. Seeing that she didn't continue talking, Li Zi didn't pursue her further. He knew that to make Wanda make a psychological change, he should not be too hasty, but take a long-term plan and take it slowly. Chapter 7. Community Apartment. Li Zi bid farewell to Wanda and returned home, turned on the light and went to the balcony. The deep sky outside was completely dark, and the night was dotted with stars. The cold wind blows in the autumn night, and the curtains rustle with the wind. Occasionally, there are passenger cars passing by downstairs, heading for the entertainment venue in the center of the town. Outsiders always like the nightlife in Westview Town, because they have not been beaten severely. Call. Li Zi took a deep breath, went back to the house and locked the doors and windows and drew the curtains to block the wind and moonlight outside. It was dark and windy, and he had something to do. The gangsters from other places actually came to Zijing Town. With a wave of Li Zi's hand, several knife-wrapped tattoos appeared in front of him. They were the tattoos of those gangsters just now. Such unique tattoos probably came from a certain gangster. In the past, he didn't bother to deal with the gangsters, because they didn't owe each other and didn't provoke them. However, he has already offended those people tonight, and he probably will seek revenge tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. American people hold revenge very much, let alone American gangsters. Then there will be another problem. So it's better to start early, as long as the enemy is gone, there will be no more trouble. Found you. For a few seconds, Li Zi's divergent spiritual thinking network has already captured the people with knife tattoos in the entire Westview Town. The warehouse area in the east is indeed a gangster. A dark light flashed in his eyes, which turned into golden light and disappeared out of nowhere, leaving only a few stars twinkling in the air. Westview Town East Warehouse. There are almost no people around the remote East Warehouse, and the security team also gets off work in the evening. Only the guard stays in the monitoring room. Therefore, many gang members like to trade secretly in the East Warehouse, and many of them are gangsters from out of town. And at the moment, a spacious warehouse room, brightly lit and full of noise, a dozen figures moving back and forth carrying items. Hurry up, haven't you eaten yet? Quick, move your things to the car and go back to sleep. Put things lightly, the big man with rough appearance for the head urged sharply. The deputy next to him whispered, "Boss, John hasn't come back yet." Fake, this damned guy. Just run out to play with people who are short of manpower. When Neri heard this, he was obviously very dissatisfied with John. If Jinbin's goods cannot be delivered on time, all of us will suffer. Bang! Just as he was speaking, a huge amounts of sound echoed in Curry. What happened? Neri immediately heard the reputation, and it turned out that one of his subordinates accidentally dropped the goods on the ground when they were carrying them. It also caused a deep hole in the cargo box. He suddenly turned blue with anger, and his subordinates were more stupid than the other. "Be careful, boy, if you sprinkle a little white flour, I will throw you into the river to feed the fish." "It's not the boss, this product is wrong, this box is much heavier than the previous one." The men argued. "What's the meaning?" Ni Rui walked up suspiciously, kicked the wooden board of the cargo box and then it cracked, and a lot of objects fell out. However, what fell was not flour, but a pile of stones. Fake. "Boss, they actually used stones to fool us." The assistant's eyes widened when he saw this. He had never seen such a shameless person in the industry for many years. He was reluctant to buy flour, and directly used stones to fool them. Damn, the local gang is so rude. Neri grabbed a handful of stones and threw them on the ground angrily. "Boss, what should we do now?" The deputy's forehead was dripping with sweat. This was Jin Bin's goods. If something went wrong, they would all die. "Hey, are you looking for these?" At this time, a lazy voice came from the direction of the truck parked behind, also revealing contempt. "Who are you?" Ni Rui turned his head and saw a tall and thin figure appearing on the roof of the car at some time. The man was wearing a black rune mask, and was holding a large bag of white noodles, which should have been in the cargo box earlier. He was relieved when he saw Bai Mian, and then his eyes turned cold. "Boy, so it's in your hands. Hand it over." The words fell. More than a dozen people around raised their long guns one after another. The cold and dark muzzle pointed at the man on the roof of the car. The bullets in the gun chamber could kill him at any time. "Everyone, calm down. It just so happens that I have a new thing that needs to be tested. I just want to try it with you. If I can survive, I will exchange the thing for you." The person who came was Li Zi. He arrived half a minute ago, so he was in no hurry to make a move. He wanted to try the newly created Avada Kedavra from the world of Harry Potter, which could kill people without leaving any traces. "Kill him." Ni Rui didn't talk nonsense, and directly ordered to shoot. "Hey, Avada Kedavra, Avada Kedavra." Li Zi shook his head, conjured a magic wand out of thin air, swung it suddenly at the surrounding people and shouted. Hum, whoosh. Instantly, several bright rays of light flew out like meteors, forming a strange arc across the air, hitting several people who lowered their guns one after another. Buzz. Bang bang bang. At the moment when the light came into contact with the original living people, the breath of life in their eyes was slackened, and they fell to the ground one after another and completely lost their breath. And there are no marks left on the body, not even the slightest wrinkle on the clothes. How? How is it possible? Neri's eyes were full of disbelief, and he backed away tremblingly. After witnessing the instant death of his subordinates, he seemed to lose the arrogance he had just now. Now all he has in his heart is the fear of death. A little strong. Li Zi was also a little surprised. Just now he tried to launch multiple shots, but he didn't expect it to be successful. Perhaps the creation magic is too powerful, and the Avada Kedavra created is far more than the version used by Voldemort. After all, Harry Potter's fighting power is far from being comparable to Marvel's. Definitely that is a very magical world. Devil. At the moment Ni Rui tremblingly took out his gun, wanting to sneak attack while Li Zi was thinking. Don't worry, it's your turn. Li Zi noticed his movement and waved his hand casually. Next second, the last person fell with it. I almost forgot to restore the scene first. Li Zi waved his hand again, and the broken box returned to normal, and the bullet casings on the ground disappeared. After confirming that there were no flaws, he turned around and disappeared in place with a golden light. Not long. As the doorman passed the warehouse, he noticed the open door. After the doorman walked in suspiciously, he was horrified by the lying corpses all over the ground, and his legs almost collapsed to the ground. Help! Dead man! Soon the siren blared loudly throughout the East warehouse, and the police came to the scene quickly and searched all the bodies, but found no problems, not even any injuries. Everyone seems to die strangely. This night, the Zijing Town police station is doomed to be restless. Definitely tomorrow's newspaper headlines will also make the entire West View town uneasy. This is going to be one of the big unsolved cases of the year. But except for one person, she saw the problem at a glance. Chapter 8. Next morning. The sky is reddish and the belly is white, the yellow leaves of the autumn trees are rustling with the wind, and the people of Zijing Town start a new day with the sunrise. But today's atmosphere is obviously more serious than before. Boom boom boom. Li Zi has a regular schedule. He gets up early, but someone knocks on the door early in the morning. It was Wanda who came, and she brought two men in suits and leather shoes who claimed to be CIA agents to investigate the murder. Li, please explain to me, the two of us came back together last night, and we didn't go anywhere on the way. Wanda spoke first. Sorry Wanda, please allow me to ask questions. One of the agents interrupted Wanda, then looked at Li Zi in front, and said in a deep voice, Mr. Li, there were many casualties in the East warehouse, and their people had a conflict with you yesterday. Is it those little bastards? Li Zi was slightly taken aback. He understood that the agent who claimed to be a CIA agent in front of him was here to investigate the case of the gangsters' destruction last night. As for whether the two people's true identities were members of the CIA, it was open to discussion. However, the two now suspect that Wanda was responsible for the deaths of those gang members, because she is the only one with such a weird ability in Westview Town. Kill without a trace. According to the accounts of the two, the police investigated the scene all night and found no clues, even after restoring it through professional technology. Concluded that these were all sudden deaths. Obviously some kind of supernatural power. Wanda was with me last night, she didn't go anywhere. Li Zi told the truth, but not quite. After all, he killed the man, but neither the CIA nor the Tianjin Bureau could possibly suspect him. Mr. Li, you are responsible for what you say. The CIA agent stared at the young man in front of him seriously, hoping to see the suspicion of lying from his micro-expression. However, the other party did not lie. Immediately, he exchanged glances with his companions before continuing. Wanda, I would like to ask you to go and have a look at the scene. The Avengers have the responsibility to take over this task. No problem, but he's going too. Wanda pointed to Li Zi and asked someone to accompany her, simply because she didn't want to perform the task alone. Hearing this, Li Zi was also a little surprised. No problem. The CIA agent hesitated for a while, and immediately nodded in agreement. Anyway, a large crowd of reporters gathered at the scene of the crime. Even though it is now blocked, many photos have actually been circulated. It doesn't hurt to have one more Li Zi. Not long. The CIA agent then drove the two to the warehouse. Once there, the warehouse was surrounded by a cordon, and the police had been patrolling back and forth. Simply show your credentials. Li Zi and Wanda were brought into the crime scene. Without any clues, it was a perfect crime. Detective Inspector Gordon of the police department, who was also involved in the investigation, explained from the sidelines. The CIA agents have been standing behind to observe the expressions of Wanda and Li Zi. For a moment he asked Wanda, who had been scouting the scene, did you see anything? I didn't feel anything. He hid it too well. Where's the body? Wanda asked. Wanda, you seem to be on the right track. Seeing her serious appearance, Li Zi couldn't help but smile slightly. It seems that doing more other things can distract Wanda's attention. I just want to do my best. Wanda replied. In fact, she is very resistant to participating in any action now, but seeing such a tragic killing in the town where her family will live in the future, she couldn't just sit back and watch, intending to take it seriously. Some haven't been shipped back yet, they're in the police car outside. Inspector Gordon on the side took the call. Without delay, everyone came to the transport vehicle outside the warehouse, the door was open, and a white cloth was lifted to reveal the pale corpse. There were no scars on the body. The forensic doctor dissected the two remains and found no disease. They are all in good health, and there is even a comparable athlete. Detective Gordon was full of emotion. The surrounding surveillance did not find any problems. Perhaps a supernatural event, Lee Z added, looking at the CIA agent again. The CIA agent ignored him, but looked at Wanda. What did you see? No, they died like normal. Wanda shook her head. She really didn't see anything. There wasn't any dark matter or other energy bodies in the scene and in these bodies. If there is, it is impossible to escape her perception, and even the soul of the owner of the body has no reaction. The two CIA agents looked at each other. One of them said slowly, "I'm sorry to bother you two. You go back first. By the way, this is a poisoning incident, Gordon, you should understand." Clear. Inspector Gordon didn't have any hesitation, and it was the first time he encountered a supernatural event. He knew that such things should not be revealed at will. Moment. Everyone left the scene of the crime one after another. The police temporarily blocked the warehouse completely, and the surrounding roads were not allowed to pass. However, with such a tragic murder case, it is impossible for anyone to dare to pass here. So it didn't take long. Except for the police officers guarding the warehouse wall, there was no one else living in the entire East warehouse. However, no one knew that in the empty barn curry, a rabbit jumped out of the corner. Next second, the rabbit spit out a ball of black aura, and the black aura gradually condensed into a human form. "It's a woman. Poison." She looked around and took a deep breath, and said with a sneer, "Oh, I'm afraid this is not the masterpiece of some necromancer." If Lizzie were in this place, she would definitely recognize this woman as Agatha Harris Nix. Unlike Wanda, Wanda has no origin magic power, but has never learned any spells, not even a decent magic book. Unlike Agatha, she read countless books, so she could tell at a glance that this was clearly done by the necromancer. But, damn it, I can't feel where you are. Agatha also couldn't feel the owner of this breath, she just felt a breath of mana, and found nothing else. The other party's magic attainments are higher than hers. Why on earth did you come? Wanda, origin magic power. Agatha muttered to herself, and then her eyes turned hard. She must not let anyone take away the origin magic power, such a powerful energy should belong to her, she was born for magic. I'll find you and make you a puppet. Her face was a bit ferocious, her hands gathered black energy, and with a strong wave, her whole body turned into a black aura and disappeared. Boom. Outside, noticing the strangeness, the police rushed into the warehouse, but found that there was nothing inside. It's strange, I heard someone talking. Chapter 9. Coffee Shop. Aren't you afraid? Wanda, who was sitting opposite, revealed doubts on her delicate and melancholy face. Few ordinary people can remain calm in the face of such a thing. You are Scarlet Witch, the strongest Avenger, why should I be afraid when you are here? Lizzie asked back. I am the strongest Avenger, who said that? Wanda was taken aback, no one had ever said that before. It seems like no one in the Avengers is bored enough to talk about it, except for Tony and Thor, who sometimes grapple with such childish and boring topics. For example, Thor once wanted to set the voice authentication to become the strongest Avenger. Now he's a big fat man. Witches are generally the most powerful in the organization. Lizzie opened his eyes and spoke nonsense, but the strongest Avenger told the truth. Scarlet Witch is indeed the highest combat power of the Avengers at present, and Thor is not as good as her. This is a fact. After Wanda practiced the Dark God book, she even became the top fighting force in the 9 realms. If Avengers Alliance 3 Wanda met Thanos first, how could Avengers Alliance 4 reverse the future later? Thanos, who even the big 3 couldn't do it, let Wanda alone be enough. No matter how strong ability is, I can't feel his existence. Wanda was a little absent-minded as she spoke, and she couldn't help thinking of going to the Heavenly Sword Bureau yesterday, and seeing Vision being dismantled. She tried to perceive the existence of Vision. Unfortunately, Vision is like a pile of scrap metal, without any response. Wanda, you need to move on. Lizzie was always paying attention to her mood swings, and found that the origin magic power in her body was still extremely unstable. However, there is no trend to erupt. Look forward. Wanda looked at the sunny young man in front of him with a serious expression. He always gave her a very comfortable feeling and took her feelings into consideration. If Lizzie knew what was going on in her heart, she would probably say bluntly, get out of my hiding place first, we're good friends. Lee, I didn't expect to meet you so early, shouldn't young people be sleeping at this time? At this time, the bell rang at the door, followed by a slightly surprised female voice, with a friendly tone. Good morning, Agnes. When Lee heard the sound and looked around, he saw the person he least wanted to meet. Agatha Nix. The old witch always had a considerate smile on her face, and no one could tell that she had killed her own mother with her own hands. Agatha's eyes fell on Wanda across the table. Is she? Wanda, my resident and neighbor. Seeing this, Lee sneered inwardly. The old witch probably started thinking about Wanda since she arrived here yesterday. After all, origin magic power is too attractive for a witch. That is the power of the Scarlet Queen in mythology. Hello, Wanda, I just remembered you're the Avenger, superhero. Agatha couldn't wait to step forward and hold Wanda's hand. Hello. The sudden intimacy made Wanda a little flattered, and she let the other party hold her at a loss, which may be the reason for the lack of care since she was a child. She admitted that this strange new neighbor gave her an inexplicable affection. Aunt Agnes, where's Josh? Lee was a little speechless, and the old witch didn't need to be so anxious. He almost wrote the words, I want chaos, on my face. He stayed at home. The poisoning incident this morning made him a little worried and he dared not go out. When Agatha talked about the poisoning incident, an imperceptible glint flashed in her eyes. That guy most likely came for Wanda's origin magic power. Fortunately, she came into contact with Wanda in advance. As the saying goes, those who are close to the water get the moon first. It's all fighting between gangs, and things like this are common in America. Lee spoke intentionally or unintentionally, and at the same time, she was keenly aware of the emotion in Agatha's eyes. It seemed that the old witch probably knew it wasn't an accident, but she didn't find any clues, otherwise she wouldn't have come here in a good mood. Those brutes don't deserve to come back from Blink, they should be gone forever. Wanda's eyes were cold, and she made sacrifices to her comrades in exchange for peace. As a result, someone destroyed the beauty of the prosperous age. Sometimes you have to admit that there are only a small number of good people in the world, and only those with dark hearts can grasp things that ordinary people can't get. Lee took 2 sips of coffee, raised his eyebrows and looked at Agatha. Aunt Agnes, do you think so? When Agatha heard this, if she hadn't been sure that Lee was just an ordinary person. Otherwise, she really felt that the young man in front of her deliberately used these words to tease her. After all, she would do anything to obtain supreme power. Those dark histories even became a disgrace to the witch world. I almost forgot, Lee, I need your help with something. Wanda didn't talk about that topic again, but suddenly remembered something. She took out a blueprint from her pocket. Actually, I have something to do in Westview Town. I have an unfinished house on the west side. I hope you can help me find a construction team, and you can mention the remuneration terms as you like. Lee took over the drawing, which contained a simple house structure diagram and a transparent love heart in the middle. Obviously, the owner of the drawing had polished it countless times by hand. Love is almost gone. May I? Wanda spoke expectantly again. Originally she planned to use magic to build. But after thinking about it, it's not appropriate. It's too weird for ordinary people, and no one wants to be seen as a freak. Naturally, Wanda didn't want to either. No problem, but are you sure? As long as I complete the construction, any conditions can be raised. Lee couldn't help but smile. Definitely. Wanda's mind was a little pure. She didn't hear the meaning of the words. She nodded, her beautiful blue eyes revealed clarity in melancholy. The two of you, I left beforehand and have time to chat. Agatha was left alone by the two of them, unable to get in a word, so she had to find an excuse to leave first. Wanda has now been found and successfully contacted. There are still many opportunities waiting for her in the future. Don't worry about it for a while. Origin magic power will become her pocket sooner or later. Chapter 10. West of Westview. A forest of peach blossoms grows here, but in autumn, the peach blossoms on the trees are gone, and there are only bare trees as far as the eye can see. You really plan to build the house here? Lee left the coffee shop and followed Wanda to the site where the house was built. He looked around and saw that the area was remote and sparsely populated. This place is a bit deserted. I think you should change to another place. After all, people live in groups, and neighbors will give you a sense of security. Aren't you my neighbor? I may not live in this house. Wanda looked at the open space in front of the peach grove, her melancholy eyes revealing complexities. The cold wind forced her to put her hands in her pockets and rub them to keep warm. Well, I'm also worried about losing a tenant. Lizzie smiled. He clearly couldn't persuade Wanda, because the address of the house was chosen together with Vision. People always like to borrow things to think about their feelings, and have a thought. What's more, for Scarlet Witch now, it has only been a few months since Vision's death, and the sadness in his heart has not dissipated. Later, though, Wanda also relieved Vision. Lee, this matter will trouble you. Wanda looked at the young man beside her. The reason why Lizzie was asked for help was that there were not many friends left around her, and everyone left one after another. Awakening, the Avengers organization has also fallen apart. The only Hawkeye I know has also retired. The only one I know now is Lizzie, and he feels very good about himself. Maybe he treats everyone like this. He likes to think differently and look at problems from the perspective of others. No problem, but I hope you don't go back on my terms. Lizzie said in a teasing tone. He didn't find it troublesome. He had hired a construction team during the renovation of the community apartment before, but it was just a phone call, and Scarlet Witch's trust and favor could be exchanged. This is equivalent to doubling the value. Well, as long as it's not too much, Wanda replied. Since the weather was a bit cold in the morning, the two of them didn't stay any longer, and soon returned to the community apartment. They did not take a car to go back on foot, and returned to the block near the apartment in about 20 minutes. It may be the so-called poisoning incident, which caused no one to go out on the street today, and the tourists who gathered yesterday also disappeared today. One case hit the local tourism industry hard. Once there was a murder case in Florida, which directly caused the local tourism industry to enter a cold winter. Lizzie couldn't help being a little embarrassed seeing this. After all, he was the chief culprit in the poisoning incident. But those who died were all gang members, and the poisoning case will probably be forgotten soon. Lee, you are finally back. This is the rent money from Aunt Agnes. At this time, Josh, who had just come downstairs, saw him and ran over immediately. What are you doing over there? Lizzie took the money bag and noticed that in the square not far from the apartment, many people were setting up the stage, with banners and colorful balloons hanging up around it. I heard that he is a big philanthropist in New York. Mr. Wilson is going to come here to do charity. The mayor couldn't wait to set up the stage. After all, the poisoning case scares many people, and Mr. Wilson's arrival can just make up for the loss. Josh said it all in one breath. But Lizzie obviously didn't listen to the words behind. His attention was all on Wilson. The great philanthropist Wilson from New York. There is only one person who can be called a great philanthropist in New York, and that person is the underground emperor of the New York underworld, Wilson Grant Faith. Daredevil's #1 nemesis. Lee, what's the matter? Wanda noticed that he was taken aback, and asked in doubt. I was just thinking the town's luck might be on its way. Lizzie replied. To be honest, Jin Bing's methods in the underworld are very cruel, but he has done a good job in charity. After all, he is a real capitalist and an underground emperor who is all-powerful in the underworld. Naturally, he needs to master both black and white contacts and full strength, so as to consolidate his position. But Jin Bing's visit this time is likely to be a poisoning case. The leader of the group of gang members mentioned Jin Bin yesterday, and it was obvious that Jin Bin wanted the goods. Interesting, Zijing Town is really a place of geomantic omen. A few heavyweights are coming. Lizzie complained helplessly in his heart. It was really a chain reaction. Fortunately, Jin was not threatening. The real trouble was the old witch Agatha. Maybe I should create some puppets and let them do things for me. With this thought in mind, he immediately bid farewell to Wanda and went home. He sat on the sofa habitually and glanced at the ever-increasing time bar on the system interface. Increase bit by bit. I don't know when the triple frame will start. Lizzie pondered the direction of the timeline. No surprises, no butterfly effect. 3 bugs in the same frame will still happen. And he has come all the time, so he naturally doesn't want to miss the 3 insects in the same frame. As a senior Marvel fan, he also wants to witness the 3 insects in the same frame with his own eyes. Hopefully it will be a year later, otherwise I might miss it. Lizzie's tone was helpless. Then with a wave of his hand, the doors and windows were suddenly closed and shut, and a scene like an ocean of stars suddenly gathered above his head. It enveloped the whole person, as if in another world in an instant. Lizzie is not worried about being noticed by Wanda and Agatha, because the magic of creation almost isolates everything from the outside world. Even if outsiders break in, they can't see anything. Make what? For a moment, he thought of a cool organization in his previous life, Shadow Corps. An organization composed of shadows. They obey the master's orders, similar to an agent organization, and can do anything. Moreover, they come and go without a trace, so it is difficult to be found. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.